Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex and I would greatly appreciate if you want to support me or support the channel if you would consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Y'all, today we are going to talk about Married at First Sight, episode 19, I believe it is, reunion part 2, and I'm gonna keep it so real with y'all. We are not gonna be here for long. This could have been an email. Especially now watching Love is Blind Sweden and watching Temptation Island, shows that are actually spicy and juicy. This could have been an email. I feel like there was absolutely no reason for this to be a part 2, but we will talk about the very, very little that was given to us. Let's jump into it. All right, so we start off with David and Michelle. And remember, the big cliffhanger is David going to admit that before the relationship, he actually had a relationship with Madison? Is he's going to say it? David once again quadruples down. I think this is the 5,000th and first time that we've heard David say that Madison and he hung out on the night that Alan and Madison got into that big fight, and he stayed out late with Madison and her cousin after a football game. But other than that, those were really the only 2 times that those two hung out before.
One time when she had told Alan, and then also I did stay out with her and her cousin watching a football game at night, yeah.
And when you hung out, was it in a flirt?
And remember, we have already heard them say that before. That is not new news. I don't remember if it was on Reunion Part 1 or if it was in the show or if it was on Instagram. Somewhere we saw the two of them say that. Once again, if there's one thing these two are gonna do is stick to the story that they came up with behind the scenes. So at this point, I don't really have a lot to say about the two of them. We're not getting any truths out of it. Now, Alan. Kevin is like, so were you like flirting with Madison during those times though? How was it? And he's like, well, I had to see that I still got it. So I mean, I was, but I had to see that I still got it. It was in the I wasn't getting what I wanted at home way. So I had to see that I still got it. And I'm like, can we get this man off the screen? Can we get this man off the screen, sir? How insecure are you that in 2 months you need to see if you still got it? Please, please. Then we go back into David claiming that the first kiss they ever had was at Juan's warehouse when everything was going crazy. He pulled her to the side and they had their first kiss. I just don't know, y'all. I just like, what is there to even talk about and dissect with all of these lies? Now, Michelle once again doubles down, saying that it is so unlikely that he would actually send that text, I want to eat you up, before having been physical. Kevin is like, saying I want to eat you up implies that you've had a snack before. And I was like, Kevin, come on now. I see you. So Kevin calls out the situation and does ask Michelle, hey, though, was this a way for you to have an out when it came to Juan? Juan. I can't even get these people's names right, y'all. Was this a way for you to have an out when it came to David, though? Finally, this happened, and now you could say, I didn't want to be with her. I didn't want to be with him. I hate him forever. Michelle's like, I don't hate him. I don't hate him forever. She's like, I don't know. We probably would not have ended up together, but I do think that we could have at least probably been friends if something like this didn't happen. Now they jump into finances and whether or not finances are a big deal. Michelle says finances are a big deal to her and they are a measure of success to her. And so for her, she heard some numbers that David said when they had more in-depth conversations about finances that scared her, especially with David living at home. And I'm not gonna lie to you. If I was going to be with a guy who lived at home, which I'm gonna keep it real with you, unless there was very specific reasoning why, maybe he's a caretaker for his mom or he just recently got laid off or something, I don't really think I would be with a nearly 40-year-old guy who lived in his mom's basement. Personally speaking, that's just not for me. And I've said that from the beginning of the season, but I extra would be worried if he lived at home and did not have savings. To me, that is just very, very worrisome because what is your money going into? Most people will admit that rent is the biggest part, or their mortgage is the biggest part of their paycheck, arguably. So to me, I can understand the frustration and the worry. That obviously doesn't excuse the way that Michelle treated David, but I can get where that concern was. So for David, success is having a soulmate, having a great family, being on the right path. He doesn't skip a beat, throwing out there that in Iowa, he and Madison brought a property that they have together, an investment property. He loves to let us know that he and Madison bought that. Child. Then he starts to get into how Madison doesn't pay for a thing when they go on dates. He opens doors for her, and he just loves stepping in and showing that love that he has. Madison's family loves him. Her friends love him. It's all great. It's rainbows and sunshine for them. And as I said before, had they both went about it in an honest way and in a real way, maybe people would actually think, hey, that's kind of cute. Glad for you guys, you found the person you wanted. But the grimy way they went about it, and then the way they villainize and come down on others, just makes it very, very hard to root for them. So David gives apology 500,001, and he also admits that Madison is the breadwinner, because I think Kevin throws out the question, well, do you think that Madison accepts this because she's younger? And David's like, well, she's the breadwinner. This is not it. Is this love to y'all? Oh, child. Now, Michelle does get in how she wants to get married again. She does realize that she has to work on how judgmental she was and the way that she treats others. So she has had that self-reflection. Good for you, Michelle. David said that he is looking for marriage with Madison. And, when you know, you know. When you know, you know. That's all he gotta say. So David does hope at group events that they can be cordial with each other. She doesn't have to exclude herself. Michelle's making some face. I'm like, David, just shut the F up. But no hard feelings. Michelle says, we're not going to be friends, but we could definitely be cordial or friendly. And that is the end of their scene. We got nothing, zero clarification. As I said, if you were coming to this reunion expecting that you were going to get answers from David or Madison, good luck. Next up, we have Carla and Juan.
Let's go. So I think the way that he processes things and goes through the motions of life is a little different.
Juan
beats to his own drum, and he has very little to no consideration for me.
And if you haven't been looking at Juan's crash out on social media, I highly recommend it. Juan is really going mad because he got called out on YouTube. I actually did a video on it, so you could check my Married at First Sight playlist. And there has been more developments, I believe, since. I just haven't had the time to make another video. But anyways, Carla and Juan, Kevin asks what they liked about each other. Juan talks about how he loved Carla's eyes. She has a fun personality, blah, blah, blah. This man already has gone on to say that he was not physically attracted to her. So a lot of what Juan had said in this conversation absolutely makes no sense. Now, Carla was not shocked that there was no attraction. They operate very differently. She knew since the honeymoon that it just was not going to work between the two of them. He's more analytical, while she's definitely more of a go with the flow person. And I do think that sometimes these opposite personalities can attract and they can work, but there has to be compromise on both sides. I think when you're both very, very rigid in the person you are, unfortunately, it doesn't work. And I definitely get the vibe that Juan is just extremely rigid in the kind of person that he is. Now, Juan claims, once again, he didn't want to make attraction the focal point of the marriage. He's gotten into it too soon, and he wanted to actually get to know Carla for who she is. And I'm like, how though? Where did you try to get to know Carla for who she is? Because all you did was criticize the things that she likes. And then on top of that, you give this whole long dissertation on people's YouTube comments that Carla had no idea that you even felt in the first place. And nobody did, because you did not choose to be upfront about what your actual problems were. And for you to say, I talked about it on the show. I talked about it on the show. A lot of the stuff you didn't talk about on the show, though. Anyway, he claims that it wasn't anything related to the physical. It just had to do with lifestyle, which once again, we know is now not true, because he has admitted since within the last week that he was not attracted to Carla. So I feel like everything else that he says is so irrelevant, because when you don't have that initial attraction, it's very, very hard to get past that. Okay, so they get into the intimacy coach. Remember the intimacy coach who decided that she was going to come to their house practically butt naked in that little slip that did not fit her? Child. They get into that. Juan said it was not really his speed. He wasn't really into it. Carla defends it, talking about how Tantra is a really great thing to get closer. It's not just about the sexual, but it's also about connecting with your partner. And I do agree. I think Tantric yoga can be a great thing to do. But of course, this was just a joke and a mockery. And I don't think it helped that this woman came and Juan couldn't even take her seriously. Now, Carla realized for her that it was not going to work because Juan goes to the beat of his own drum. They put a lot of focus onto how Juan forgot about Carla at the honeymoon. He does apologize because he says that those were the wrong words, but ultimately she just realized that she was not the focal point. He forgot about her. And again, I feel like these two are doomed from the start. I think Juan saw her and just was not feeling her physically. And then from there, he just could not get past it. I just think the only difference with Juan and some of the other people is that Juan is a little bit of a nicer person. And by nicer, I mean he could put on a better act. Because I think Juan had just as many nasty things to say. He just didn't let them out until he felt like he needed to defend himself in public by putting Carla down. Child, I don't know. I didn't really like the way that Juan went about that last week. But anyway, for Juan, he claims that it was not realistic for him to get to know someone in that short of a period of time. All of the other husbands were buying their girls massages and all of these different things. And Carla's like, okay, maybe because they wanted to do something nice for their partner? Question mark? And I definitely get where Carla comes from. Juan gives me, he's the type to reward you with a date. Like if you do 3 things towards your side hustle, then he'll reward you with a date on Friday. Juan gives that you need to earn dates with him, that you need to earn nice things from him. It's not giving that he does it because he wants to. That's just the personality I get from Juan, but maybe I am wrong. Now, Juan claims he showed that he cared by being loyal, being honest, not cheating on her. And I'm like, were you honest? Because you were not attracted to her. You admitted last week you were not attracted to her. You admitted last week you were not okay with the storage unit, but you helped her move into it and didn't say anything. You admitted a lot of things that you were not cool with. The biggest one of being that there was not a physical chemistry there and attraction. So were you honest? Okay. And don't even get me wrong. I don't even care that Juan doesn't want to be with Carla. I just really did not like that Juan's method of defending himself was to drag Carla down when it wasn't even Carla that came at him publicly. It was some YouTube channel. And your response is to drag somebody else who never has publicly dragged you. At least to me, that just came off as some bitch-made behavior. I'm gonna say it. Bitch made. Anyway, let's keep going. So Juan claims by some of Carla's comments, it was clear that she was expecting certain things that he was not able to do. But once again, they get back onto this forgetting about her. Juan apologizes for his wording. Now they talk about what they learned from each other. Juan learned from Carla that sometimes you just need to let go. You need to be less rigid. Carla's like, tell him what you did. Tell them what you did last week. Tell them what you did. He's like, oh yeah, I took a camping trip. Carla's like, he took a trip to disconnect and ground himself with the earth. I'm like, Carla, oh, Carla is too wholesome for this world. It is so funny. Now, Carla realizes that maybe she needs to focus more on business, on goals, be a little bit more structured with those types of things. So they do get into Juan's girlfriend. They talk about how she's Brazilian and they get along because they are more similar in the way that they approach life. He gives no real examples of it. Now, she has a big heart, great values. She loves to have fun. Good for you, Juan. You could have just said, I'm attracted to her. I'm attracted to her, so all that stuff doesn't matter. Now, Carla talks about how she is not dating. She has not found anybody yet. It just seems like Carla is taking a little break from this. And I don't fault her. I think that this whole thing between being on a TV show, being legally married to a stranger, being with someone who did not find you attractive whatsoever, and kind of just... I think it's a lot. I think all of it is a lot, and I would imagine it's traumatizing to you. So some of these people that go on to date so quickly, and especially get engaged and married, Emem and Brandon, cough, cough, I just have some questions. All right, so they have a men's segment, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did not care about this segment. They talked a lot about what they would do if they were caught sending the text message. I just don't care. The men's segment has no value. They said nothing. Now we get the experts coming out. We first find out that Dr. Pia is pregnant with her miracle baby. She has since had that baby recently, so congratulations to her. It's always nice when you did not think you could get pregnant, and if it's something you really want, that it can come through, and miracle babies, wonderful. So I'm happy for her. Now we have Michelle and Alan come out to talk with the experts. Both of them have agreed that they have moved on from the respective traumas of their marriages. Alan opens up about how he was dating, but a lot of people found it to be a red flag that he was on the show.
You know, they're like, well, he's desperate, he's this, he wants me for arm candy. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be honest. Like, you know, here's where I'm at.
They thought that he might have just wanted them for arm candy or as a rebound. And again, I don't blame those people. I do think when you come out of a process like this, it is traumatizing. And I think to just jump into dating, yes, from your end, you may know that was never real, but I think a random person would definitely be like, oh. Now, Alan does, of course, remind us that he does actually have his girlfriend. Some of y'all were saying she's black. So do y'all got pictures of her? If they're not in public, don't give me pictures. But like, if there's pictures up somewhere on Reddit or something, let me know, because some of y'all said she was black. I could see that. I could see Alan with a black woman. I really could. But yes, he connected with his girlfriend through the matchmaker, and they have been going strong. For him, they do talk a little bit about him changing himself so much for Madison, buying the clothes, all of this stuff. Alan explains that he never changed his core. He never changed his true personality. Yeah, you have unstraight teeth, getting Invisalign, it's just a physical thing. Getting new clothes, these are all just physical things. But at the end of the day, he's still the same person, and I can rock and respect that. I think sometimes, sure, you might need a little clothing upgrade. There's nothing wrong with having a little leather jacket in your closet. There's nothing wrong with straightening up your teeth. As long as you are not changing who you are fundamentally for another person, I would agree. And I think I get it. I will still say, though, for me personally, the way that Alan was so gung-ho to do these things for Madison, when Madison, to me, was not giving a lot of validation that there was ever really a shot with Alan, I still think to be a little bit worrisome. But I get Alan's explanation. I'm just a little bit in the middle about whether or not I fully believe that that is the truth. For Michelle, once again, she realizes that she needs to let her walls down. She does admit that she was a brat, and she pushed David away. Again, they would not have been together, but she does think they could have at least been friends. Now, they start to talk about race because Michelle brings up how there was a rumor that it was actually supposed to be Madison and David originally matched, and then something changed at the last minute. I'm like, girl, you ain't hear that. The producer told you to ask that joint, didn't they? They say that is not true whatsoever. Now, they did say that they potentially had someone else in mind for Madison originally, but race was a factor. Okay. So next off, Emem and Akechi, they come out and talk with the experts. Ike talks about how they are two different people looking for two different things. So Ike was again going into how he wanted to have someone that had his back. Dr. Pia, in typical Dr. Pia fashion, chimes in and says, how? How did she not have your back? Do you see her? Ike says, I don't think she did. She didn't. And at some points, I didn't want her to. And they were like, finally, you are telling the truth. You did not want her to have your back. You did not want her love. We already know that Ike discussed that he was not attracted to her. So finally, it makes sense. Ike does say that he should have been open to the full experience from the beginning, but that's really all we get from the two of them. So they bring out Brandon, and Brandon goes to shake Ike's hand backstage, and Ike completely ignores
I'm good.
I made a bet and I just won, y'all.
him. Ike goes to the back room with Michelle and David, and they like, you a real one, brother. You a real one. Hyping him up. And I'm like, David, if you don't STFU. Brandon, meanwhile, is like, see, I told you, I knew I was gonna win. Yes, I knew I was gonna win. I'm like, Brandon, if you don't STFU, and they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, I made a bet and I just won. I knew he was not gonna be mad enough to shake my hand. And I'm like, Brandon, if you don't stop, Brandon done pissed me off too. Cause I was like, if you do not stop, sir, you are love bomber number one, okay? Love bomber number one. Y'all, you and Emem better not get on my nerves today. So they ask him, what do you mean by that? What bad? Why wasn't he man enough? And you know, Brandon starts laying it on thick with the love bombing. Oh, well, you know, he had a beautiful woman here, everything that a man could want, and he fumbled that. He knows he fumbled. So he can't handle that. Now, Emem says once again that it was love at first sight for the two of them. There was no inconsistency in the way that he's talked to her, loved her, and treated her. They talk about how they got intimate because it gets into a conversation of, oh, are you guys going to have kids? Emem talks about how they got intimate last night and they had some Hennessy, and she's like, what? We all is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Now, Emem does open up and say she had a miscarriage recently at 14 weeks. And I want to be sensitive because I know what a lot of people are thinking. I want to be very sensitive because a woman having a miscarriage is a traumatic situation no matter what. I think especially for someone like Emem, she wanted to have a child. And so I think that hurts no matter what. And I'm just going to leave that there. On my platform, I don't want to say anything crazy. I want to be sensitive to her situation. Now, Brandon asked Pastor Cal to marry them, and Pastor Cal's like, let me tell you what, why don't we talk offline? We might get into it later. So, anyway, they're trying for kids again. I think they want to take a bit of a break after the miscarriage is basically what they implied, but then I don't know because they said that they got intimate last night after some Henny, and it sounded like it went, I don't know, yo, it's just the love bombing. And I feel bad because you can tell that Emem believes this is real. And I think that Brandon is on the high of believing it's real. I don't know. I hope it works for them. I do not wish bad on any of my sisters out here, okay? Emem is a fellow Black woman. I think she is beautiful. She was mistreated. So I really hope for her sake this works out. But as you can imagine, this is a crazy situation and it just doesn't look good. The love bombing, the rushing into a marriage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about it, but if they're happy, then hey, I wish them all the best. I never come on here and wish anybody bad. Let me say that. All right, so David and Madison, they come out with the experts. David, first off, apologizes for the $500,000 in first time to the experts because he lied to them as well. He got aggressive and snippy with them as well. Now, he does politely decline to discuss the timeline.
She was actually listening to me because she knew I was struggling on the honeymoon. But then past that, it was just how real and genuine she was, and we've made.
David does talk about how it really did take a toll living in the second bedroom with his so-called wife. Pastor Cal seems like he's a little bit on board with this. He's like, okay, even though it started badly, you guys can still make a change and make a difference to get there. And I'm like, this is the problem. So many people like David and think he's such a nice guy that they're willing to overlook what happened. And even in this part of the reunion, you could tell that they have a lot of support, and I'm still stuck on this is crazy. Now, we finally have the scene with the full cast. So everybody sits down. They start to get into different types of hate that they're getting. Juan claims that people hate him for getting emotional on TV and discussing where he's from. I'm like, Juan, shut the F up. That's not what happened. I remember the week of that episode, and the reason why people got upset is because you talked a lot about yourself, you go into your story, you get very deep, and it seemed like you were not trying or giving anything with Carla. And then it also kind of came out of nowhere, and you dumped a lot on Carla in that very moment, and it just felt like a lot in that time. I remember that episode specifically where it was like, whoa, how'd we get from here to here? And then poor Carla was like, how do I even reply to all of this? Because you don't open up to me like this, so woo. Like, I get that there's a time and a place to open up, but you knew you weren't feeling her like that. So it kind of came off to some people, and I didn't even necessarily say this, but it did come off to some people people like you were trying to have like your here's my plight, here's my story moment, and it came off disingenuous to some people, which a lot of your behavior is. Let's keep it for real. So they get into crazy DMs. Camille said she's got some. I think Ike said he got some. I don't know. Now, they get into Madison and David. They start to talk about, would Madison change these things about David that she wanted to change about Alan? Madison did say that she encouraged David to wear more fitted shirts because he has nice muscles. She also saw the basement and she understood that David had a plan to move out in 6 to 9 months. So for her, it was cool. But as their relationship started going further, they ended up moving in together before that. And now they live together in Madison's apartment. So it works out now because the apartment is a smaller space. They talk about how because David doesn't work from home and she does, they're not together. They're usually also on weekends. They're out and about. So it's really not a big deal that they're in this smaller space. Cool. Congratulations. Juan chimes in and it's like, we do support you guys. We are really here for you guys. Camille also chimes in to defend David and it's like, you know, David isn't just this like schlubby, disgusting guy. Like he is actually like a really cool guy. And yes, we get it, y'all. We get that y'all like David and I do really feel bad for Michelle on that stage because it's so clear that everyone is Team David. Maybe not Team Madison, but they're definitely Team David. I mean, we know that Camille said she's the closest with Madison, and I believe even in the preview for next week, we see Madison, Thomas, Camille, and David hanging out. So, child, that is the end of this reunion. Next week, we have the Where Are They Now? I told y'all we would not be here for long because there just wasn't much to say. I feel like a lot of it was repeats of things we already heard and a lot more lies. So, if you made it to this point of the video, that means you liked the video. So I would greatly appreciate it if you want to support me or support the channel, if you would consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.